Israel's Prime Minister Bennett finds himself in the middle of the incompetent and chaotic state of the White House, more demolition orders and building freezes in Judea and Samaria, as well as the PA's violent attack against U.S. journalists. All this and much more right here at the Israel Guys.
Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of fake news, you should connect to the true and authentic stories of Israel. I'm Luke Hilton here with Joshua Waller. We are on the Mount of Blessing in the biblical heartland of Israel. And you're going to hear a whole lot more about that because Prime Minister Naftali Bennett met with President Joe Biden in the United States and had some significant things to say about the biblical heartland, also known as Judea and Samaria, falsely known as the West Bank. We're going to get into that a whole lot more. But first, you should hit that subscribe button. You should hit all notifications. That way you won't miss out on any of our brand new content that comes out twice a week now, because every Monday we have Mythbusters content. We also have adventure shows. We got one coming up very soon, and we have other content as well. We're going to get more into that. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment below. Engage with our community of watchers and listeners. Josh, we want to take 30 seconds and talk about why you should join as a monthly supporter to this YouTube channel. Okay, we have two ways you can do that. Patreon.com/theisraelguys or theisraelguys.com. Links are in the descriptions below. Number one, we do not make money from this channel, except like the maybe 50 cents that YouTube gives us every little while, type of thing. And our mission is to provide the factual, true, and authentic stories from Israel with a focus on Israel's biblical heartland. We're part of an organization that does volunteer service for farmers all over the biblical heartland and have done that for 17 years. But the way that we are able to provide free, 100% free content on YouTube, podcast platforms, our website, articles that come out every single week is because people all over the world support us. By signing up as a monthly supporter, one-time donations are great too, you're enabling us to film more stories, produce more content. We have a document right now of content development, basically things that we want to produce, and it is endless. Like, we have so much information we want to get out there, but we want to do it in a professional, factual, engaging, storytelling way. And we can't do it without people like you. By joining us on Patreon or at our website, you're enabling us to produce more content and help us to keep it free so that millions of people all over the world can engage with the true stories of Israel.
Luke, can I just say it's a game changer when somebody actually gets out and tell the truth? And if you guys are the reason why we started this show is because we saw so much of it is a huge need for the truth to be broadcast. Literally, the list of things that we have to tell you guys are stuff that you never heard anywhere else. It's stuff that is going to better the people of Israel. Like, if the international community can understand better the situation on the ground here in Israel, it's called Hasbara here. It's public diplomacy. If they can better understand what's going on here, you can better support the people of Israel. And this is what we're really all about.
Yeah, I want to give a quick example and this is going to be a show that's going to come out in the next couple of weeks. International media right now is headlines reporting Israel shoots and kills a 16-year-old Palestinian
child.
Guess what?
Yeah.
That 16-year-old was a sniper shooting at Israelis.
No, look, he actually shot at him. Like, he took his gun and shot at the soldiers.
Sniper.
Yeah, okay? A sniper.
The international media will never tell you that. We're going to tell you the truth. Hold tight. So anyways, if you can join us, patreon.com/theisraelguys or theisraelguys.com. Links are in the description below. You will literally be a part of our production team getting content out to the entire world. Thanks so much for partnering with us.
Guys, we've got a lot to talk about here at the home front. I like calling it the home front. Like, right. Here at home, people say that. Like,
we're in the middle
I don't know if everybody remembers. Like, we're literally, we live here in the heartland of Israel. So here on the home front, this is what the whole world's talking about, Luke. There's big stuff going on. One, Bennett is in the United States. Prime Minister Bennett is meeting with President Biden, and things are a little bit chaotic. I mean, come on, look at the U.S. is in like ridiculous, unbelievable, crazy shape right now. Yeah. Look at what's happening in Afghanistan all over the world. Now, Bennett finds himself in the middle of this scene in the United States. Well,
and also some crises happening here in Israel that he pretty much left behind.
Well, the crisis is here, and the crises that are being made in order to suck up close to the United States at this time with a completely leftist, ridiculous notions of the United States that bulldozing vineyards, we're going to get that a little bit, that demolishing homes and not allowing homes to be built in the Jewish sector are things that are make the United States government at this moment feel good, and it makes Bennett look better, and he needs it for a political push.
And Bennett himself, he had 4 points of 4 goals for his trip to the United States. Number 1 goal was direct contact with the U.S. administration. So basically, number 1 goal, to cozy up to the United States administration and have a really good relationship with it, which is not a bad thing. The bad thing is where you have to reach that point, you have to agree to a compromise. And
like a building freeze.
And that's what we're going to get into.
That's what we're talking about right now. Literally, I don't know if you guys can understand, literally this is happening right now. There's a building freeze.
Yeah.
Since President Joe Biden took office, there has not been a major building initiative that has been pushed forth here in the heartland of Israel.
Right.
Literally, there's a building freeze on the people of Israel. The committees have not even met to approve housing units. So housing units are being stopped. Jews building in Judea, Samaria, East Jerusalem, stopped because of this administration. And the current government in Israel, led by Naftali Bennett, is not willing to push that envelope because of that international pressure that America is putting on. So literally there's a building freeze on the people of Israel inside of the Judea and Samaria region.
So when Prime Minister Naftali Bennett this week on Tuesday left to go to the United States, there was a protest outside Ben Gurion International Airport, and you had heads of regional councils from Judea and Samaria at this protest. Givat Ze'ev council head, Jerusalem's Givat Ze'ev, Yossi Avrahami, said, "Prove to us that you are not a puppet of the United States that is being played." They had a slogan, community leaders had a slogan that said, "Bennett, you don't have a mandate to dry out the settlements." Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened when he's already had several meetings in the United States.
So, Luke, we talked about a freeze, and obviously the settlement leaders here, the community leaders of Judea and Samaria, are just infuriated by these decisions. There was a on the table to put thousands of homes, to approve thousands of homes, and it was not approved.
Right.
Bennett
and that's their big issue.
Not sign it.
Right. It was like all set to go through. And now Bennett's going to the United States. These homes are not being approved, right? Benjamin Regional Council head, the Benjamin Regional Council, not far at all from here. Israel Gantz said, quote, "We urge you, Bennett, to remember where you came from and to tell the Americans that you are changing your policy and intend to build as needed." Well, guess what happened? We can get it from Prime Minister Naftali Bennett himself. He said, quote, "This government will neither annex nor form a Palestinian state. Everyone gets that," he said. "I'm Prime Minister of all Israelis, and what I'm doing now is finding the middle ground, how we can focus on what we agree on." Can we just kind of interpret that a little bit? Okay, here's the Israel guy's interpretation, translation of that. I can't do anything conservative. I can't do anything liberal. I can't do anything good. I can't do anything bad. We're going to find the middle ground so we can be friends with everybody.
Can I ask you a question, Luke? This is going to be a later show, too. What's the middle ground between, he has Zionist factions in his government, but he also has a Muslim Brotherhood faction in his government.
And literally,
people don't know that. But the Ra'am party is a Muslim Brotherhood faction. What is the middle ground between those two? And that's what he's trying to play the middle ground of.
Right. Because
you can't.
He has also Zionist parties, like you mentioned, in his coalition. And like he said, we want to find the middle ground so that our government can all be friends with each other, which means we can't accomplish anything good or bad.
Okay. Bennett is the Prime Minister of Israel, and I got to give him something here.
That's right.
Bennett is trying. I'll give him that. He's trying. It's an incredibly hard job that he has right now. He did say something good about Jerusalem. He's trying to hold on to something. He says, quote, "Jerusalem is the capital of Israel." He says it's not the capital of other nations. That's good because right now the Biden administration, I'm sure, as he's meeting literally right now, he is in the United States and he's meeting. His meeting started yesterday. He's there today. He's meeting. Who knows what's going to come for this?
Well, and can I just say, too, one of the issues that the United States had on the table for Bennett's meeting was to open a Palestinian consulate in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So this is like Bennett's red line.
Yeah.
He's saying, okay, I can stand strong on something. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and no, we don't want a foreign power with a consulate in our capital.
It's not a divided capital. Thank God. I give that to Bennett. He's standing strong on this issue, and that's a big issue. Jerusalem can't be divided, and it can't be the capital of but what? Who else wants a peace in Jerusalem? I mean, literally every nation in the world is trying to find their little spot and make chaos in Jerusalem. No, Jerusalem is supposed to be a place of peace, and Jerusalem will be the capital of the state of Israel, and it always will be, just like it always has been.
That's right. Update from an official that is in Bennett's delegation in the U.S., and they're calling this a soft issue. This quote is what they're calling a soft issue. Quote, "It's clear that there are disputes, but it's also clear that we're not going for adventures. There's no annexation and no freeze." Okay? No annexation, no freeze. They don't want to be adventurous. Interesting way to put it. Quote, "The formula of the government is to avoid flooding and exaggerating controversial matters. Obviously, there will be no annexation, but it is clear that we will not stop building in the settlements." But then he goes on to tell the New York Times in an interview published Tuesday before he meets with the U.S. administration that, quote, and this is Naftali Bennett's quote to the New York Times, "Israel will continue the standard policy of natural growth." The standard policy of natural growth means no new buildings. No new building growth. Natural growth, meaning very, very slow and very, very limited. And like you said, nothing has been approved since January.
Luke, and if you look at the actual, I didn't pull up the stats for the show, but if you look at the natural growth, actual growth, like it's children born in Judea and Samaria, compared to actually what they saw on the other side of the green line, the growth here is exponential.
It's huge, yeah.
It's huge, like 5% growth, like every boom, 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 just by people are moving in, people are being born here. So the growth here is actually way bigger than in what they would call Israel proper. So by not building and having building, it's a major issue, like major problem. There's a huge need for building in the heartland of Israel.
That's right. One more response from Samaria Regional Council head Yossi Dagan to Bennett's new policy on Judea and Samaria. Yossi Dagan says, "The statement that a terrorist state will not be established in the heart of the country is an important statement." That's good. "And so is the statement that this government will not resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. At the same time, the statement that there will be no sovereignty," which Bennett referred to as annexation, "is a statement that is unacceptable, as is the statement about restricting construction in accordance with natural growth." Yossi Dagan sees right through the filter, and he sees that Bennett's definition of natural growth is a restriction on construction in Judea and Samaria.
Freeze, yeah.
He goes on to say, quote, "Sovereignty over Judea and Samaria is a moral need and duty of every prime minister in Israel." It absolutely should be. "The prime minister's role is to promote what is good for the state of Israel, and construction in the heart of the country is what is good for the state of Israel." The public in Israel expects there to be a construction boom in Judea and Samaria. Will not accept a situation of restricting construction as is being done now. I just want to clarify as we close this section out that when they say it's true, why does the public expect there to be construction in Judea and Samaria? Because we're not talking about a foreign piece of land. We're not talking about a state of Palestine. We're not talking about a little piece of real estate in a war zone or occupied territories with wars going on. We are talking about a huge percentage of the state of Israel in the heart of Israel, all the biblical sites located here, and where 700,000 Israeli Jews live.
Correct.
700,000, nearly 1 million Israelis. There's 7 million Jews in Israel. Almost 1 million of them live in East Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. This is part of the country of Israel, not a piece of real estate that can just be bargained off for a cozy friendship with the United States.
Luke, I want to just highlight this for a second, because people are listening to this and they're going, okay, wait. We support Israel. We support the Jewish nation. We support the government of Israel. Yes, that is fantastic, and that's good. That's a good step. But I want to just bust a myth here. Every nation in the world their forefront message to Israel is that of a leftist pressure and to try to push Israel to not build. That's what we just talked about. Israel would build. It is Israel's interest to build up the heartland of Israel. That's exclamation period. That is in Israel's interest. Mm-hmm. Security interest, you name it. Israel needs this land. For people to not understand that is a massive mistake. We need the Zionists, those that are listening to this show. Israel needs you, and they need to hear your voice. What they're hearing on the national globe is that pressure to destroy, that pressure for Israel not to be the strong Israel, the pressure to empower a Palestinian regime to take over the land of Israel, to push Israel into the sea. That is literally what the international pressure is today. We've got to change it.
Right. I want to put it one more way, and that leads perfectly into the next story, and that is there are pro-Israel organizations out there that their policy is to support the Israeli government and whatever those policies are.
Well, the biggest pro-Israel groups on the stage. That's what they're doing.
Let's flip that around. If pro-Israel organizations were to support the Israeli government to do the right things, like build in Judea and Samaria, then the Israeli government would feel empowered, the confidence and the empowerment that they need to make the right policy decisions. That leads perfectly into there are vineyards in Shiloh, Israel, in the heart of Samaria, of Israel's heartland, that are ordered to be bulldozed, and it could happen as early as the next few days. The deadline is 1 month from now, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Vineyards that we are very much closely connected to.
We've worked in the vineyards.
Friends with the farmers. We've worked in these vineyards, these actual vineyards, and we don't have time to get into the whole story because we published it actually yesterday on the YouTube channel. So we'll have a link in the description below, or just go on the channel, watch the Save the Shiloh Vineyards campaign video. And we have started a petition. We already, in less than half a day, we have more than 2,000 signatures, but we need at least 10,000. So please go check that out. We're going to have the link to the petition campaign page in the description below. You have to go sign and then share with all your friends and family, because we're going to take this petition to the Israeli government. Because, like we mentioned, if they know that the international community of Israel supporters supports them to not destroy these vineyards, then they'll be empowered to reverse the order.
Yeah, and it's extremely important to know that the leftists use the same tactic, and it's time that we get smart, Luke, and use the power we have. There are right-wing Zionist officials all over the world that support Israel's right, but we're not together. This petition is the goal of this petition is to bring this unity to the group of Israel supporters, from, you name it, congressmen to senators in America, all over the world, these leaders, to say, we support Israel's right to settle and take possession of their ancestral homeland in the heartland of Israel.
That's right.
That's what we're about.
That's right.
And if you believe in that, we need to unite together and get this petition. Luke, we're not the kind of people, we're not petition people. Like, no. We've never done this before.
No,
I'm telling you, this is something like we're not like that. This is a huge need, and you have to understand from our hearts, if we don't do this, literally, these vines are going to be destroyed
by a bulldozer.
But literally, that's the court order to do this.
Possibly before the grapes of this harvest can be harvested. So super important, guys. Please sign the petition. Sign the petition. Share with everyone. Know everything's in the description below. Last story of the day, and that is some interesting things happening in Ramallah and across the Palestinian Authority. Mahmoud Abbas, the head. Call him the illegitimate head because he's been like 12 years too long in power or something like that. He's facing much more criticism
going on here in the Palestinians.
Democracy.
You're right.
But anyways, you've heard of Nitzar Banat. He's the Palestinian activist that decided to stand against the Palestinian Authority and call out the corruption.
No longer.
He was murdered by the Palestinian Authority because he had too loud of a voice and he was getting too much attention. Well, there's protests all across the Arab towns in Judea and Samaria. The PA last Saturday arrested 28 protesters in Ramallah. They were protesting the death of Nitzar Banat. Now, the U.S. and UK intelligence leaders, they recently visited Ramallah, and they're demanding that a department be set up in the PA security department to investigate the police and intelligence personnel. The goal, I guess, is to hold them accountable. We'll see how that goes, but it is a good move or step in the right direction by the U.S. and the U.K. working together, because there is widespread persecution and corruption in the Palestinian Authority government by their own people, to their own people. Huge corruption and persecution to their own people. And finally, an international body is actually trying to hold them accountable instead of falsely accusing Israel all the time.
Luke, this next story just puts everything you just said in case in point.
Right. Oh, yes. Yeah. But to preface, it's not only their own people, international journalists.
Yeah.
It might be a first, actually, in a while.
Luke, just the other day, we were interviewing some of these same officials. I'm glad that the story did not come out
we didn't
before
say
we
where
did
we
that.
were yet. Right.
We're not telling you what we did, but we did interview some PA
soon.
officials, and I'm glad we weren't these two guys. I mean, Luke, tell the story.
Right. Two Washington Post journalists covering the protests in Ramallah were beaten. Okay, Washington Post journalists. We got a picture of one of them right here. Saturday, August 21st, Palestinian security forces, policemen, harassed, abused, and threatened a pair of Washington Post journalists, Salwan Georges and Sufyan Taha, in the Ramallah Menara Square. And quote, this is a statement from the Foreign Press Association. As police broke up the gathering, a Palestinian policeman grabbed the Washington Post photographer as he was taking pictures of the arrest. Officers seized the camera, held the photographer's neck, and tore his press badge. And when the journalist tried to tell the police, we're from the international media, they were told, quote, here it's different. We don't care. And when they finally gave their cameras back an hour later, they had deleted 7 of their photos, and they told them, don't you dare post any photos of the policemen that were involved in this incident, or else it will be big trouble. So, Palestinian Authority corruption is starting to spread to the international media's eye. You need to know about it. Hopefully, foreign media and journalists will actually begin to report the truth of what's happening. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to sign the petition to save the Vineyards of Shiloh. Also, all of our source links for the information that we presented today are in the description below. As always, tune out the fake news and negativity and tune in to what is actually happening here in the heartland of Israel. We'll be back next time right here at the Israel Guys.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Go ahead and subscribe if you like that content. We can get it to you every week right there at your fingertips. If you really liked it and have questions, anything, we love comments. Go ahead and leave us a comment as well. If you'd like to even go further, your support would be greatly appreciated. We've got lots of content, lots of ideas that we want to keep pushing out there. If you want to support, you can go to our Patreon page or check us out at theisraelguys.com.